to another Coffee with Kilroy. I have my coffee. And I hope you are enjoying a beverage of your choice. Today, I continue the Postcard Games series that I started a few weeks ago and covering mostly postcards from LPS Inc., which are the publishers or owners of Against the Odd magazines and Turning Point Simulations. Both those publications issue postcard games. Against the Odds, it's been a staple of Against the Odds for quite some time. And so now we're up to number 3 in the series. And I'll put a link to the other ones that I've covered in the past. But this is Showtime Hanoi, Cunningham and Driscoll versus Colonel Tomb, 1972. As you can see right there. It's pocket game number 3. Designer is Paul Rohrbaugh. Graphics is Greg Grando, and it's copyright 2008. And these squares are playable, just so you know. Here's your counters. Well, if you're not familiar with postcard games, it's a postcard game, or it's a game on a postcard. So this is the map. These are the counters that you'll need to cut out. And you just cut out this area. This is a little bit of a chart that kind of tells you the what the numbers on the counters mean. You have defense, action factor, type, and bomb or ace. You've got anti-aircraft target, or anti-aircraft artillery target, and altitude. And then you've got on the back, and so that's the counters you'll cut out. Then you have the rules on the back. And this is going to have your, sorry about that, this is going to have your setup, your actions, your air combat, your anti-aircraft artillery combat, the A4 Skyhawk, the game length, and who wins. So this is all your rules here. This is a Paul Rohrbaugh game, which a lot of his games use a standard deck of cards. So it talks about how you set up the deck of cards up here, and you're not going to need dice. With the postcard game, you're not going to have dice anyway, but you're not going to need dice. Now, the one thing that's a little bit different about this as being a postcard game, the other ones I've covered were actually postcards. You could put a stamp on them, you could put an address, and you can send them off to a friend. This one, I guess you could do that, but you're going to be writing over the rules and what have you. So this is air combat during Vietnam, and you're going to have like your movement cost here for moving your planes, and you've got some plane counters here, which are F4 or A1, A4. Well, you got an F4 here. You got 2 F4s and 1 A4 there. So that's your Skyhawk, and you got 2 F4s. And then the opponent are MiGs. Looks like there's a MiG 17, a MiG 19, and a MiG 21 there. Plus they have some anti-aircraft artillery there as well. Then you have your turn-in marker there, and that's dealing with the. You also have a marker over there for the cards as well. Interesting. So. So this is basically the board on which you're going to be conducting your combat. So there you have it. I mean, these games are simple enough that you just cut out the counters. Now, later on, some of my later postcards that I'll go to, I'll actually have die-cut counters. Against the Odds does offer up the die-cut counters for their games. And you can take a look at those. Get me a drink of my coffee here. So as I was saying, I don't have, excuse me, I don't have the ones for these, but the die-cut counters for this game, but the several of them do, and that makes it a little bit nicer. I mean, you're gonna have to. You know, it alleviates the need to have to do the cutout, and you know, I really don't like cutting into these that much. And some of these I have extras, so it's not that big a deal. And so that's why I'm showing you this one. So, but these are relatively easy to cut out, but there's going to be very thin. You know, the counter's going to be very thin. So if you can get a hold of the die cut counters, which again, I think most of the postcard games they produce now, when you ask for it, they'll send you the die cut counters along with it. So it makes it a little bit easier to play. This is a relatively small board. It's grid, small squares. There's a lot more rules to this one than you might see in the standard postcard game, because you're dealing with air combat, and by its nature, air combat sometimes tends to be a little bit more complicated in how you handle it. You have a whole host of combat modifiers here, if you can see, whether you're an ace or target low or very low, and all this other stuff going on here. So, for example, this A right here, this is an ace, and this MIGs for this F4, and for this MIG 17, that would be an ace. So they're going to get that modifier up there. So there you have it. Showtime Hanoi, Vietnam air combat game from Against the Odds and designed by Paul Rohrbaugh. So take a look at that. There's a lot of variety in these games. And again, something else I really like in war games in general is the variety of the conflicts and battles that are covered, but also the variety of how they're covered and how they're simulated. And sometimes these small packages, provide a different perspective on that conflict. So that's what I have for you today. Love to know what you think about any of these postcard games, or more specifically, this one. Thanks for stopping by, and the best way I know you stop by is drop me a comment. Tell me what you think. Anyway, take care. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.